Back again. I want to talk a little bit more about mage. I've made a I've made a bunch of characters, ranging from the one I talked about before, the private investigator, but I also made a stage magician who he's a stage magician and he comes into his mage abilities because it's hard to say how he comes into them because part of playing mage, from what I can tell, is you play through the awakening, which is like when a mage realizes that he has the potential to affect reality with his will. Your soul, or your second soul, essentially awakens, and it could, it can or it can't be independent. It's different for every person. A whole separate being in and of itself. It could be that your soul is very, communicative. It talks to you a lot. It influences things you do, not just simply, you know, um, what's the word I'm looking for? There is no subtle manipulations. It could be subtle, but it could directly tell you what it wants or your path to ascension, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to ascend to a higher level, to change, to become able to influence everything with your will, everything. And at higher levels of ascension, or higher levels of sphere control, you can do a lot. I think at four points in forces, which lets you manipulate energy, all different types of energy, from shadows to light to electricity to radiation, kinetic, potential, any kind of energy there is, gravity, like you can influence and or change it. But with forces four, you can create nuclear explosions, and you can start out with a three at character creation in any one uh, sphere. But it's based off your arete, which is like your sum of magical knowledge and magical power. Which your arete starts out at one, and then you can use freebie points on a 4-for-1 basis to increase your arete, which is good. If you don't have a DM that's running you through your awakening specifically, or is not letting you use your freebie points right off the bat, your backgrounds, and distribute your freebie points, which every character at character creation gets 15. If you start out with a 3 arete, that essentially means whenever doing magic, you roll 3 to activate your spell effect. Usually difficulty 6. You're trying to get as many 6s as you can to cast your magic, and using your foci, which is like your magical practice. It's rituals that and represent your ideals of how magic works for you. So, like the magician did his actual stage tricks to activate his magic. The PI will do things like, he pulls out the same exact Zippo lighter and lights a cigarette, and that's how he focuses his. As you get higher up in the spheres, you get to be able to do more and more stuff. I'm really personally interested in seeing my interactions with the other supernaturals in the world. I was told in no uncertain terms to not go raping cairns. That's where the werewolves hold their moots or gatherings, like pagan rituals. They're all out in the woods around a big fire, drinking and fighting, and all sorts of stuff like that. But their cairns are actually nodes for mages, which is where magic, they exude magic. And mages can tap into them to pull out quintessence, which is the energy of magic itself. You can use quintessence to make casting spells easier, or depending on what spheres you have, to create magic items, lasting effects, because the game is very broad-ended in its way that it approaches magic. You could set up potentially anything. You could set up stuff on yourself with correspondence. That's not correspondence. No, time. With time magic, you can use it to set up deadlines or make things permanent or give them time limits. So you could potentially, like with forces 4 and time 3, you could probably make your own nuclear explosion and set it to go off whenever you wanted to with just the magic alone. So you could designate a point in space, and at this point in space, in 3 hours, just an eruption of energy happens. Or you could make yourself invisible. You can bend light around you so that you are invisible. Now, problem with that is you're also blind because you're bending light around you. You don't perceive any light, so you're essentially in a world of darkness. But you're invisible. But there are very, very varied amounts of things that you can do. I'm really interested in being able to roleplay this PI really well, and like it seems like he's going to be really fun. I'm really digging his whole idea. But then the metagamer, the power gamer, make my subtle D&D or DBZ characters. Like, I want to be a super Akashic Brotherhood, which is kind of like your magic ninjas or magic monks, Shaolin monks that can, manipulate forces and, shoot fire and stuff. Which you can shoot fire and stuff. You can throw. If you want to stand there and charge up a fireball the size of a truck, you can do it. But, the universe's paradox level looks at you and says, no, this is how static reality works, and human beings cannot stand there and throw fireballs. So paradox will smack your ass when you try to do silly stuff. But then there's always places that you can do silly stuff. Like when you're in your nodes or your specific place. You can set up sanctuaries that exonerate your ideals of magic, and as such, magic for you to use those abilities in this area becomes easier. That's one of the few workarounds they have for, big things. And you could also, what I liked about it is you can do successes over time. So say you're trying to do something like make yourself bulletproof permanently, or project a field around yourself that deflects bullets. You have to have forces, and you have to have time. Now, say the DM says, I need, for this to work permanently, I need 10 successes, and you have an arete of 3. Well, you can't get 10 successes. You can at best get 3, right? But you can perform a ritual and build up successes. So you say, I want to spend, 4 turns, or say I want to build up for 4 turns. So turn 1, you roll your 3 dice of arete. You get 2 successes, we'll say. So that leaves you with 8 successes required. So you have to get 8 more successes in these 4 rounds. Now, if you don't, and you don't completely botch out, continue to do your ritual, continue to focus your magical energy to garner this effect. As long as you don't botch out, which is roll 1s. If you roll too many 1s, because you'll get paradox from botching, and a lot of paradox, because you're trying to affect reality with your will, and reality is too strong. But if you get your 10 successes, then you've got your bullet deflection field or your invisibility, whatever, and you can set arbitrary ones. Like sometimes DMs can set you up and say, I need 50 successes for this. Like a building is falling down, and you need a bunch of mages to work together as long as they have the same spheres that are within these effects. You could reverse gravity to make the building not fall. There's a lot of effects you can do in this game, which I'm going to talk more about here in the next week or so. I'll probably make 4 or 5 more videos about it. I want to cover all of the spheres individually, and then give some of my, some of my metagame thinking, some of my power game thinking about what spheres really do, or what they can do, and some of my ideas for things. But yeah, thanks.